let's take a deep dive into the 5 habits that truly transformed my life in just 1 week. Yes, I know it might sound like an exaggeration, but believe me, it's not. These changes didn't take months or years. They took just 1 week. I was honestly surprised myself. But these aren't your typical quick fix solutions or the same tips you hear everywhere on the internet. These are real, raw, and meaningful habits that I personally integrated into my daily life, and they completely shifted the way I live, think, and feel. At first, I wasn't sure these habits would really make a difference. I've tried so many things in the past that never really stuck or made any noticeable impact. But these were different. I committed to them fully, went through the struggles, the challenges, and the breakthroughs. By the end of the week, I experienced a transformation that was nothing short of amazing. I'm talking about real changes in my mindset, my energy, my focus, and even my overall happiness. And the best part, I truly believe these habits can do the same for you. Whether you're feeling stuck, looking to boost your productivity, wanting to improve your mental health, or simply trying to make some positive changes in your everyday life, these habits can guide you toward that change. They help me get out of my own way, and I'm confident they can do the same for you. So before we dive in, I want you to grab a cup of coffee, tea, or your favorite drink and settle into a comfortable space, because we're about to go on a journey that could potentially shift the way you live your life. This isn't just about giving you more ideas or things to think about. These habits are practical, actionable steps you can start implementing today. They are easy enough to fit into your routine, but powerful enough to create lasting change. And here's the best part. I'm going to share personal stories from my own experience with these habits. You'll get a raw and honest look at what I went through, what worked, what didn't, and how I adjusted. My hope is that by the end of this, you'll feel empowered to try these habits for yourself and experience the kind of transformation I did. Now, let's break it down. I'm going to walk you through each habit, one by one, so you can see exactly how I applied them, what challenges I faced, and how they impacted my life. These aren't vague theories or things you have to wait weeks to see results from. These are practical steps that, if you commit to, will start making a difference almost immediately. So, without further ado, let's dive into the first habit. But trust me, you'll want to stay until the end because every habit builds on the next, and together they create a powerful force for positive change in your life. Let's get started. The first habit that completely transformed my life was waking up early. Now, let me be completely honest. I was never a morning person. My bed was my best friend, and I used to hit the snooze button more times than I can count. My mornings were often chaotic, rushed, and I always felt like I was starting my day on the wrong foot. But I decided to give waking up early a shot. And let me tell you, it was a total game changer. At first, I wasn't convinced. I started by setting my alarm for 5 a.m., and the first few days were absolutely brutal. I remember dragging myself out of bed, feeling groggy, and wondering if this was really worth it. My mind was filled with doubts, and my body just wanted to curl back under the covers. But I pushed through those first few difficult mornings, and by the third day, something incredible happened. I started to notice the beauty in the quiet and stillness of the early morning hours. There's something almost magical about being awake before the rest of the world. It's a time when everything is calm, peaceful, and unhurried. With these extra morning hours, I suddenly had time for things I never seemed to have time for before. I started my day with some light exercise. Not anything too intense, just a bit of stretching or a short jog around the neighborhood. This simple routine helped wake me up fully and gave me a burst of energy that lasted throughout the day. I also took a few minutes to meditate and set my intentions for the day ahead. Those small moments of mindfulness made a huge difference in how I felt, more focused, calm, and centered. Another surprising benefit of waking up early was how much less rushed I felt. Instead of scrambling to get out the door, I had time to enjoy a healthy breakfast, sip my coffee slowly, and plan out my day thoughtfully. This slower, more intentional start set a positive tone for the rest of the day. I felt more organized, less stressed, and had a stronger sense of control over my time. It wasn't just about having more hours in the day. It was about using those hours in a way that made me feel more grounded and prepared. One personal experience that stands out for me was the morning I watched the sunrise from my balcony. It was such a simple moment, but incredibly beautiful. As the sky slowly shifted colors and the world gradually woke up, I felt a deep sense of peace and gratitude. It was in that quiet, serene moment that I truly understood the power of waking up early. It wasn't just about the extra time, it was about the quality of that time and how it allowed me to connect with myself in a way I hadn't before. Now, waking up early might not sound appealing to everyone, and I get that. But I encourage you to give it a try, even if it's just for a week. Start small. Set your alarm for 15 minutes earlier than your usual wake-up time, and gradually build up from there. You might be surprised by how much of a difference it can make in your life. It's not just about getting more done. It's about starting your day with intention, mindfulness, and calm. Those early hours can truly become a time for you to create a more peaceful, fulfilling start to your day. So if you're feeling curious, give it a shot. You may just find that waking up early brings a sense of clarity and peace you didn't know you were missing. Habit number 3 is journaling. Now, I used to think journaling was something only for people who had tons of free time or were naturally introspective. To be honest, I was pretty skeptical. I mean, who has time to sit down and write about their day when there's so much going on in life? But I decided to give it a try. And after just 1 week of consistent journaling, my perspective completely changed. It became one of the key habits in my personal growth journey, and I can't imagine life without it now. I started really simple. Every night before going to bed, I set aside just 10 minutes to journal. I didn't use any fancy apps or try to make it look perfect. I just bought a plain notebook and a pen that felt comfortable in my hand. No pressure to make it pretty or to write something profound. Just me and my thoughts. The first night, I stared at the blank page for a while, unsure of what to write. But eventually, I started with the basics. How my day went, what made me happy, and what I struggled with. As the days went by, I began to dive deeper. I found myself writing about my goals, my fears, my dreams, and even my insecurities. It was almost like having a conversation with myself, and that's when the real magic began to happen. I started noticing patterns in my thoughts and behaviors that I hadn't been aware of before. I realized that a lot of the things I worried about were completely outside of my control, while other things were within my power to change if I took some actionable steps. One particular moment that stands out was after a stressful day at work. I was feeling overwhelmed, so I wrote about everything that had gone wrong. as I put my thoughts on paper, something amazing happened. I started to process my emotions in a way that felt constructive. I wrote about what specifically stressed me out, how it made me feel, and what I could do differently next time. This simple act of reflection gave me so much clarity and helped me feel more in control of my emotions. Another powerful part of journaling was tracking my progress. I started to write down even the smallest victories and milestones, no matter how minor they seemed. Looking back at these entries filled me with a sense of accomplishment and reminded me how far I had come. For instance, I remember writing about a presentation I was really nervous about. Seeing my preparation process and the positive outcome documented in my journal was incredibly encouraging, and it motivated me to keep pushing forward. I also began incorporating a gratitude section into my journal. Every day, I made it a point to write down 3 things I was grateful for. This practice shifted my focus away from what I didn't have or what wasn't going right in my life, and toward appreciating what was already there. It was such a simple shift in perspective, but it brought so much more positivity into my daily life. One of the most memorable entries I wrote was about a random act of kindness. A stranger helped me carry my groceries when I was struggling with too many bags. Writing about this small act of kindness not only made me feel more grateful, but also inspired me to pay it forward. Through journaling, I learned so much about myself, my desires, my fears, my strengths, and my weaknesses. It became almost like therapy, a way to untangle the complex web of thoughts and emotions that we all carry around with us. My journal became a safe space where I could be completely honest without the fear of judgment. If you've never tried journaling, I highly recommend giving it a try. Don't worry about writing perfectly or trying to have profound thoughts. Just start with whatever comes to mind. It could be a stream of consciousness, a simple recap of your day, or reflections on something that's been bothering you. The key is to give yourself the freedom to express whatever you're feeling in the moment. You might be surprised at how much clarity and peace it brings into your life. Remember, it's not about what you write. It's about the process of writing itself. Journaling has become one of the most transformative habits in my life, and it's something I continue to do even now. It helps me stay grounded, reflect on my progress, and understand my emotions better. If you're looking for a way to gain more insight into your thoughts, feelings, and actions, journaling is a powerful tool that can truly change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Let's now talk about habit 4, mindful eating. This was a big one for me, especially because, like many people, I used to eat on the go, barely paying attention to what I was consuming or how much I was eating. My meals were often rushed, distracted affairs. I would eat while scrolling through my phone or working on my laptop, and I never really thought about how this was affecting my overall well-being. But when I decided to give mindful eating a try for just 1 week, it completely changed the way I approached food and meal times. Mindful eating is all about paying full attention to the experience of eating and drinking, both inside and outside the body. It's about savoring each bite, noticing the flavors, the textures, and even the sounds of your food. So for 1 week, I committed to eating all my meals mindfully. I started by creating a calm, pleasant atmosphere for my meals. I cleared my dining table, set a nice place for myself, and made sure to remove any distractions. No phone, no TV, no laptop. At first, it felt strange to just sit there quietly with my meal, but it quickly became a calming ritual that I started looking forward to. Before eating, I would take a few deep breaths to center myself and bring my focus to the present moment. One of the first things I noticed was how much more I enjoyed my food. Without distractions, I was able to truly taste and appreciate each bite. Foods I had eaten hundreds of times before suddenly had new, delightful flavors and textures that I had never noticed. For example, the crunch of fresh vegetables and the sweetness of ripe fruit became so much more pronounced. It was like experiencing food in high definition. Another big change I noticed was how much more satisfied I felt after meals. By eating slowly and mindfully, I gave my body time to signal when it was full. This was a huge shift for me because I used to eat quickly and often ended up overeating without realizing it. By paying attention to my hunger and fullness cues, I naturally ate less and felt more satisfied. One memorable experience was with a simple bowl of oatmeal. Normally, I would have eaten it quickly, barely noticing the taste, but this time I took it slow, savoring the creamy texture and the subtle sweetness of the honey I had drizzled on top. It became a moment of gratitude and mindfulness, and it set a positive tone for the rest of my day. I also started to notice how different foods made me feel. Heavy, processed foods left me feeling sluggish and bloated, while fresh, whole foods made me feel energized and light. This awareness led me to make healthier choices naturally, without feeling deprived or restricted. Another aspect of mindful eating is being aware of the emotional connections we have with food. I started to recognize when I was eating out of boredom, stress, or emotional comfort rather than true hunger. This awareness was incredibly powerful because it helped me address the underlying emotion instead of mindlessly snacking. One evening, I had a craving for something sweet after dinner. Instead of automatically reaching for dessert, I paused and asked myself if I was really hungry or just looking for a reward after a long day. I realized I wasn't truly hungry and opted for a warm cup of herbal tea instead. It was a small victory, but it highlighted how powerful mindful eating can be in helping us make more conscious decisions about food. Incorporating mindful eating into my life was a transformative experience. It helped me develop a healthier relationship with food, improved my digestion, and even enhanced my overall sense of well-being. It's a habit that I've continued beyond that initial week, and I can't recommend it enough. If you're interested in trying mindful eating, start with just one meal a day. Sit down without distractions, take a few deep breaths, and savor each bite. Pay attention to the flavors, textures, and how the food makes you feel. You might be surprised at how this simple practice can change your entire eating experience. It's a wonderful way to reconnect with your body and truly appreciate the nourishment that food provides. Habit 5. Limiting screen time. This one was a tough challenge for me, and I imagine it might be for many of you as well. In today's digital age, it's so easy to get caught up in endless hours of scrolling through social media, binge-watching TV shows, or constantly checking emails. Our lives are intertwined with screens, whether it's for work or leisure, and before we realize it, hours have disappeared into the abyss of screen time. But after a while, I began to notice how all that screen time was taking a serious toll on my mental health, my productivity, and even my sleep. I knew I needed to set some boundaries, so I decided to make a conscious effort to limit my screen time and see what difference it would make. The first thing I did was set a daily limit of 1 hour for non-work-related screen time. This meant no mindless scrolling through Instagram, no endless YouTube marathons, and definitely no late-night TV binges. I'll admit it was tough in the beginning. I had become so used to filling every spare moment with screens that it felt unnatural to do anything else. But I was determined to stick with it, and the results were more profound than I expected. The first thing I noticed was how much extra time I suddenly had in my day. It was eye-opening to realize just how much time had been slipping away because of screens. With those reclaimed hours, I started rediscovering old hobbies and interests that I had neglected for so long. I picked up a book I had been meaning to read, got back into doodling and sketching, and even found time to experiment with new recipes in the kitchen. One evening, instead of sitting in front of the TV after dinner, I decided to take a walk in the park. The fresh air, the sound of the birds, and the simple act of moving my body felt incredibly rejuvenating. It was a stark contrast to the usual lethargy I felt after a night of screen-induced laziness. That evening walk soon became a cherished part of my daily routine, something I looked forward to and truly enjoyed. Another significant change I noticed was in the quality of my sleep. I used to take my phone to bed, spending hours scrolling through social media or watching videos until I felt sleepy. But this habit often left me feeling wired and restless, making it difficult to wind down and get a good night's sleep. Once I started limiting screen time, especially before bed, I found it much easier to relax and fall asleep naturally. I created a new bedtime routine that didn't involve screens, reading a physical book, meditating, or simply reflecting on my day. This change led to deeper, more restful sleep, and the improvement in my overall energy levels was noticeable almost immediately. Beyond the physical benefits, I also noticed improvements in my mental health. Without the constant barrage of news updates, social media comparisons, and digital distractions, I felt less anxious and more present in my everyday life. I found that I was more focused during conversations, more attentive to the people around me, and more engaged in the tasks I was doing. It was as if a mental fog had lifted, allowing me to experience life more clearly and meaningfully. One particularly memorable day was when I spent an entire afternoon at a local cafe with nothing but a notebook and a pen. I spent hours writing down my thoughts, planning out some goals, and even sketching for a bit. It was such a peaceful, productive time, completely free from digital interruptions. I felt more connected to myself and my surroundings in a way that screens never allowed. It reminded me of the simple joys of being fully present in the moment. Of course, there were moments of temptation and times when I slipped back into old habits, but each time I found myself reaching for my phone out of habit, I gently reminded myself of the benefits I was experiencing by limiting screen time and redirected my attention to something more fulfilling. Limiting screen time isn't about completely eliminating technology from your life. It's about finding a healthier balance and being more intentional with how you spend your time. If you feel overwhelmed or disconnected, I encourage you to try setting some boundaries around your screen usage. Start small. Maybe reduce your non-work screen time by an hour a day and gradually increase it as you go along. Use that extra time to reconnect with yourself, your loved ones, and the world around you. You might be surprised by how much richer and more fulfilling life can feel when you step away from the screens and engage more deeply with the real world. That wraps up our journey through the 7 habits that dramatically changed my life in just 1 week. Each of these habits, waking up early, journaling, mindful eating, limiting screen time, has the power to create significant positive changes, and I truly believe that if they could work for me, they can work for anyone. If you've been inspired by any of these habits, I encourage you to give them a try. Start small with just 1 habit, see how it feels, and adjust as needed to suit your lifestyle. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. These small, manageable changes can accumulate into substantial transformations over time. I'd love to hear about your own experiences. If you've tried any of these habits or have any questions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Your stories and feedback make this community so supportive and inspiring. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the upcoming tips and insights. Sharing this video with friends or family who might benefit from these habits could also make a huge difference in their lives. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, small changes lead to big results. Let's keep growing, evolving, and turning our everyday routines into powerful moments of self-improvement. See you in the next video. Stay awesome, everyone.